Our two speakers today are Kevin Downer, Executive Pastor at Metropolitan Community Church in Toronto. This is Kevin. And our other speaker is Kimahli Powell. He's the Director of Development at the Canadian HIV/AIDS Legal Network. So welcome both of them.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
One more thing, housekeeping before we start. Please turn off all of your sound-making devices throughout the speech. Thank you.
Actually, I'm going to qualify that. Put them on silent because I'm going to encourage you to follow along on Twitter and whatever social media device you can. Great. Yeah, I don't think he would be Kimahli. I think
I would not be Kimahli.
You know.
This is true. You don't know.
So, welcome everybody. We did this session a few months ago at the LGBT Philanthropy Conference that was part of AFP's inclusive series that some of you guys may have heard of. And we did that session because, as we'll talk about a little bit later, monthly giving and smaller donations and accumulative recurring gifts are one of the ways that our niche organizations have found beneficial to grow their giving program. So we, it was a bit of a blind date then, but we're gonna, I think we've tuned up our presentation and great to have another go. So my name is Kimahli Powell. I'm currently the Director of Development and Outreach at the Canadian HIV/AIDS Legal Network. We've been around for 22 years, and we're a legal policy group that focuses on human rights issues related to HIV. Before then, I worked for other international development organizations, but I sunk my teeth into monthly giving at the Inside Out Film Festival, which had over 100 monthly donors and was the most sustainable part of its giving campaign. So it's with that kind of experience and diving right into a monthly giving program, which I'll hit on throughout this presentation.
Yep. And I'm Reverend Kevin Downer, and I'm currently the Executive Pastor at the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto. The Metropolitan Community Churches have been around for around 45 years, and MCC Toronto has been around for just about 41 years. This is actually the fourth church that I've served, and so if anybody knows anything about organizations, especially religious organizations, we are kind of at the intersection of both faith and the nonprofit community. And one of the things that actually keeps us going is the ability to be able to have sustainable income, especially through monthly giving. And we're going to use the MCC Toronto and some of what we've been doing as one of the case studies because of the four churches that I've served, MCC Toronto has, I think, one of the most developed programs and has many, many different components. So it's not just one size fits all. And that's a lot of what we're actually going to be talking about is how we create different kinds of programs to meet the passions and the needs of different populations and different groups of people. And so I am not an expert. It really is about trial and error. And I think that between the two of us, we have a lot of lessons learned the hard way. And so we're hoping that you might be able to benefit from some of the knowledge and some of the things that we've actually discovered along the way. And we have some tools and techniques about how can you get going if you're not doing anything, or if you're doing a little bit, how might you be able to actually extend the ability to do more monthly giving with your current base as well as with other people who might not be participating. So some practical ideas as well as some tactics in terms of how to actually get things going.
Great. So, as I said before, follow us along. My hashtag is @Kimahli, or you can do MCC Toronto, use the hashtag AFP Monthly Giving. I've got some canned tweets already going with some resources that we'll talk about that you could use, and a challenge to you all. If you email me examples of your current monthly giving program or examples that you find most beneficial, we'll draw them out of a hat and we'll sign up as a monthly donor to one of your organizations. So follow along. I think it's a great resource to use Twitter while engaging in fundraising. So your challenge for today. So let's talk about what kind of giving programs you have. Who here focuses on major gifts? Foundations? Corporations? Who currently runs a monthly giving program? Oh, great. Oh, so lots of experts in the room. This will be
Who here
fun.
runs more than one monthly giving program? Okay, yeah, one or two. Yep. Okay.
Great. So if you take a look at the scheme of different types of giving, those of you who are currently engaged in monthly giving know that it's one complementary part of the huge arsenal of different types of giving that we have, and that it's usually complementary of a full-rounded fundraising program. For small shops, it could be your only fundraising program. Does anyone have that situation where all you do is monthly gifts? Yeah, so it's part of an overall package of monthly giving. I don't know if any of you have read the 2013 Blackbaud report on the next generation of Canadian giving. It's a really great report that was issued last year. I've tweeted it, so take a look at that resource. But monthly giving is growing, and it's continuously growing in Canada. We know that 20% of donors in Canada in 2010 made a monthly gift. That's even slightly more than in the US at 18%. But even in Canada, we have more room to go. In the UK, 36% of donors made a monthly gift in 2010, which accounted for up to 37% of their overall giving. So it's a huge, huge area for growth, and I think just shows just how much potential there is in monthly giving. Just when you think about actual demographics, Generation Xers, right? So 81 to 95ers, yes, Ryan Gosling, give 14% monthly. Generation Yers, right? So a little bit older, give 18%. The Boomers give 22%, and civics born at 45 and earlier give 28%. So huge numbers here and huge potential in monthly giving, and I think we just expect that to continuously grow. Yeah. I think that's why investing the time and resources in a monthly giving is beneficial for you and your organization.
Yeah, but one of the things to make sure that we take into consideration as well is that as we start talking about those different generations in terms of the rates that they're giving, the way that they give and the techniques and the way that you communicate needs to really be tailored to those different populations. What motivates individuals who are in that boomer and post-boomer group is very, very different than what motivates Generation X and Generation Y and Generation Next. And so one size can't fit all. And I think that that's what you really need to be thinking about is who are you trying to reach out to, both from a demographic perspective, as well as what do you understand about their various passions. So it's great to know what the percentages are, but you really have to do the homework to think about how you're messaging it and what techniques and tools you're actually using.
You don't think everyone universally relates to Ryan Gosling?
Not where I come from.
All right. So because everyone gives, there's a lot of people engaged in monthly giving, I think we kind of understand the philosophy of where monthly giving comes from, right? So just shout out, like, what kind of things do you pay for monthly? Sorry? Rent.
Utilities.
Credit cards. Cable. What was that? Car insurance. Right? And do we do this kind of out of payments that come right out of our account so that we don't cry every month when we, look at our statements, right? There's just a natural way that we've adjusted to our regular lives, right? We either pay our credit card out of our credit card, or we have a monthly routine of bills that come out of our account. And we see lots of these options all the time of various tools that commercially come at us every month, right? Pay your mortgage, buy this new toy, buy your car, buy your gym membership, right? And these are all examples of everyday things that we do in our lives of monthly gifts. And we have expectations for our monthly payments about what kind of service is provided, what kind of payments. I don't know, I like Good Life, but I tried to cancel my Good Life membership once on a monthly giving, or monthly EFP payments, and it was a nightmare, right? So we all expect and demand high quality service through the things that we engage on a monthly basis. And of course, the same should be on how we engage with our monthly giving program. And some people, if you don't, do a monthly. You kind of have the stack of bills, which you organize on your own. But I think even this kind of method of taking your bills and paying them once at a time is becoming obsolete. You know, we either make a budget or we kind of have a sense of what kind of giving or what kind of things we pay for, and then unless things change, unless the amounts change, they just kind of keep on coming out of your account. And it's that kind of philosophy about how reoccurring gets triggered is very similar to how we think about a monthly donor and how we engage in a monthly donor. Kevin, I think that's.
Yep, there you go, back one. Yeah, and I think the other piece of it is, for especially for those of you who are not currently doing the monthly giving, it adds up. It's really difficult to go to somebody and ask them to give $1,000, right? That seems like a large amount for a lot of people in a really big decision. On the other hand, if people are used to paying for their rent, their mortgage, their credit card bills, their tuition on a monthly basis, then psychologically it's a lot easier to go to somebody and actually start to talk to them about doing some sort of a recurrent payment, a gift that actually fits within their monthly budget. They're already used to that rhythm, but also if they give $100 a month over the course of the year, they're actually going to give $1,200 instead of $1,000. And so that $100 gift given on a monthly basis can really add up and be much more significant than $1,000. The other thing that we found out is that when you ask somebody for a big gift, that's usually coming through some sort of an event or some sort of a major ask, and that may be really, really good for 1, 2, maybe even 3 years. But there's some significant relational capital that you have to maintain, and if the only time that you're going back to that person is to ask for that once-a-year big gift, that becomes really difficult. On the other hand, if you can engage somebody into this idea about monthly giving, $100 a month, it becomes part of that regular rhythm. And if you can start to communicate that to that person on a monthly basis through like e-news and newsletters, online mechanisms, then you're maintaining that relationship at the same level that they're actually giving. And what ends up happening is they tend to participate in the monthly giving for a longer period of time than they would by making these one-time significant on-occasion gifts. And so that's the reason why like $100, actually, if you do the math, can really be far more significant than a one-time $1,000 gift.
So what do we already know about monthly giving? We know that it's, as Kevin just said, it's a predictable stream of revenue, right? The more, those of you who engage in monthly giving over in your programs, you know what to expect, right? The only time when you don't know when to expect, and we'll touch on a little bit later, is when payments expire or there's a lack of, or someone removes themselves from a monthly gift. But other than those instances, it's a pretty reliable, predictable stream of revenue. The potential to give additional gifts. I think when you're just starting out in a monthly program, you go in it with a all or either or approach, which those of you who are engaged in monthly giving know that's not the case. Know that you can actually tap in your monthly donor for your annual campaign or other campaigns. We know that those who engage in monthly donors, if you keep them happy over the long term, have a potential to make a planned gift or request. So there's many types of giving that we can give. Just you might see a kind of calculation like this, right? If you have your single gift donor and they give $50, right, either through a membership or another appeal, and they give $100 at the year-end appeal, right, you could get $150 from their gift. But you have a monthly donor who's giving $20 a month, right? They have the potential to give $240 a year. They may give a little bit less through the year-end appeal, but the total is still greater than your individual gift, right? So it's a really good source of revenue, and it's really important that you engage your monthly donors in all of your activities. There's a really great book from Erica Wasdorf about monthly giving, The Sleeping Giant, which also resourced in the slide deck, where they give a great example of an elderly donor who gave, I think, $25 a month over, 250 months to a total of almost $30,000, and then suddenly passed away and bequested that same amount in his will, right? And so we have this assumption that, well, if someone's giving $20 a month, that's probably what their capacity is. But it's our job as fundraisers to kind of dig a little bit deeper, find out more about our donors, keep them happy and keep them engaged, and then you never know what you might get out of the program. So it's just like any types of giving, it's an investment. It's an investment in the future of your organization, and it's our responsibility as a fundraiser to grow that revenue stream. So for us, having worked for a smaller niche organization, an LGBT organization, where there wasn't necessarily a culture of giving within that organization, monthly giving was a really useful tool for me to just begin the conversation about philanthropy for that organization. How many of you guys run a small shop? When you're the only development person, there's maybe one or two, right? So it's monthly giving is a great tool for small shops engaging in a program. As I said, great value for niche organizations, building a culture of philanthropy within the organization. In my current job, getting our board on 100% donor giving was like pulling teeth. I'm sure we all had this experience, and becoming a monthly donor was the accessible challenge for everyone on that committee. One of our board chair, who made a large annual gift every year, I convinced him, and he agreed to, in addition to his annual gift, make a monthly gift and demonstrate that if everyone on the board does this, then it lends more credibility to us as an organization. And by him making that decision to become a monthly donor in addition to his annual gift, it encouraged the rest of the board to do the same. So if you're struggling with and everyone should have 100% board giving, I think we all know that, this is a really great tool to get everyone engaged, because even if the holdout on the board is only giving $10 a month, at least you're able to say, you know what, our board gives 100% board giving, and that's why you should contribute to our organization. And almost anyone can participate, right? As we demonstrated earlier, if you think about all the things you pay for on a monthly basis, if you think about the things that you pay for on a daily basis, right? You heard about, save a latte for a day, right? You can sign up as a monthly donor. I'll give you an example of that later. Almost anyone can participate in monthly giving. I'm sure you guys remember this guy. He doesn't look this young and hopeful anymore, but this is just in 2008. If anyone is a political junkie like I am, I was, transfixed with the 2008 presidential campaign, right? It was exciting. There was this young candidate, kind of looked like me, was talking about hope be changey, all this stuff. But outside of that and the big momentum of that, there was a lot of talk about how much money he was raising every month and how much money he was raising from small donors who were pulling up. Now, they don't tell you that a lot of big donors were actually fueling the campaign as well. That's another story. But there was a momentum being built. And you heard stories every month when they were giving these reports of new donors that they were signing up and joining in, and then turning those donors into recurring donors, right? So monthly giving is a great tool of finding people who don't necessarily have a history of giving and turning them into recurring donors.
Yeah.
Kevin.
So we wanted to use MCC Toronto as a case study, and I'm going to hand out some of the collateral that we actually produce as we gear up for some of the campaigns. And I also want to talk about the different ways that the various campaigns actually appeal to the different passions of people, because I think that one of the most important things about monthly donation is it's not just about the revenue stream, it's also about the relationship and the relationship stream and the relationship opportunities that it actually opens up and it actually creates. And you can get started with one basic campaign, and then as you start to grow your capability and you start to know your population better, you can actually start to then branch out based on where their passions are and what their interests are. And we'll talk about how we've how we've done that and some of the challenges, as well as some of the opportunities and where we think we're going to go next. One of the most important things that we found out is that whether it's regular monthly donors who give on an annual basis, or whether it's people who give to specific kinds of campaigns, one of the most important things is continuing to reach out to them and update them about what's going on. So what kind of impact are they having? And that's the real question, is what kind of impact are they having? Because people who are passionate about your organization, if they sign up for monthly giving, then chances are they're somehow committed to whatever your mission is, whatever your purpose is. And so how are you actually relating to them so that they don't just feel like it's transactional? Once a year, Christmas Eve, we are a church, and so we kind of do that thing. And so we have a big event, and it's Christmas Eve. And we actually, for the last 25 years, we actually rent out Roy Thompson Hall, and we have this big Christmas Eve extravaganza. And it's just an amazing, amazing program. And so during that, we know that most everybody who's connected to the congregation is going to come. And so each year we produce a little bit of a video, and this is about a 3-minute video, which highlights some of the major programs that we have going on at the church. And it both helps to update people about what we've been doing, but it also helps to inspire people to understand how we're continuing to support this mission. So yep, we are a church and we do regular Sunday worship services, but what you're going to hear in this is that we also have a number of critical, what we consider ministries or mission purposes. They're the ways that we actually help make a difference in the world. So there's an LGBT high school. It's actually, we believe, the world's oldest and longest running LGBT-specific alternative high school, which actually meets in our basement. It is part of TDSB, the Toronto School Board. It is one of their defined alternative schools. So they take care of the curriculum and all the teachers. But we as a church have a commitment to provide everything that is necessary for the facilities, as well as we provide the funding for some of the lunch program, for some of the food for the kids, and then also work with the social workers in terms of what other support services does that group need. We also help to settle LGBTQ refugees who actually come here to Canada. And so we have a program for that as well. And so different people are passionate about the overall ministry, and some people are passionate about specific pieces. And so this is a way that it can be both and, whatever people are passionate about. And so we're going to watch the video, and then I'll talk about how the different programs help to relate to where different people's passions are.
Imagine a community supporting the needs of families who wish to ground their children in a spirituality that celebrates love and honors diversity. Our number one priority this past year has been our children's ministry. We're attracting more parents and children to our Sunday school program, and we make sure that the children are consistently a part of our 11 a.m. service. Our children's choir performs once a month to everyone's delight. In the coming year, we want to expand this ministry to support the spiritual and social needs of diverse families and youth. MCC Toronto is now one of the very few places people can go if they want their children raised in a faith community that's vibrant, inclusive, and progressive. Imagine a community sheltering courageous refugees who flee their homelands in fear of violence directed at them for living authentically as who they are. MCC Toronto's unique refugee program provides a bridge to hope, safety, freedom, and wholeness for lesbian, gay, bi, and transgendered refugees who fear or have experienced persecution, torture, or grave danger in their home countries. This past year, we've sponsored 5 refugees from the Middle East and Africa, and we've been busy helping them get settled into their new homes, school, and work. We've distributed nearly $10,000 worth of donated clothing, including winterwear for the many refugees who come from places that are lots warmer than Canada, and we're proud to offer them a warm welcome here. Imagine a safe space for LGBT teenagers to learn and pursue their education free from homophobia and bullying. The Triangle Program, a partnership between MCC Toronto and the Toronto District School Board, offers a haven for at-risk youth from Ontario and all over Canada so they can finish school. It's the only such program in Canada and the first in North America. And MCC Toronto has provided space and covered infrastructure costs for 18 years, in which nearly 600 teens have been helped. These kids learn more than schoolwork. They learn that someone believes in them and that they can believe in themselves. For the past 5 years, we've been webcasting MCC Toronto's Sunday morning services. When we started doing this, we had no idea how it would take off. We now have viewers from nearly 120 countries, and over the course of a year, over 10,000 people will watch one of our webcasts. Our goal in the coming year is to continue to improve the quality, professionalism, and reach of our webcasts, to translate our services into multiple languages, and to find ways to increase the visibility and reach of this vital ministry. We want more and more people around the world to know a spiritual home that celebrates global diversity, works towards social justice, and proclaims God's unconditional love for all.
I reach for your outstretched hand. We are connected.
And so the neat thing about that video is, first off, it cost us $0 to produce. That's the first thing, $0 to produce. But the other piece of it is, it helps to both update people about what's going on, but also notice the language, imagine. So it also starts to inspire people about what's next. And then it has reuse. And so, yep, we produce it because of the big event on Christmas Eve. But then throughout the year, there are 4 times throughout the year, we're gathering individuals in people's homes where we're just having conversation to update them about what's going on. We play the video there. When new people come into the community and want to know what the church is about, we play the video there. We put it up onto the website, and then we sent out an email following our Christmas service as we moved into the new year, so that if people missed it, they could actually go and take a look at it. And so it becomes another way of helping to engage people in a very interactive way about what's actually going on. So what Kimahli is now handing out is, each year we do a pledge campaign. It's the way that we actually try to engage people in terms of our monthly giving. And so what you have here is, these are actually the last 3 campaigns that we did.
Last one.
So
We'll start you guys next one.
that's right. Yeah,
We've got more,
I only
right?
brought like 10 or 11, so you can just kind of pass them around. But the one with the flowers from a couple of years ago, it was our 40th year anniversary, and so you know, growing from the inside out was the campaign, and we geared all kinds of communications around that. We put that picture up on the website. When we sent out emails and when we sent out letters, it all had the same messaging and the same graphic. The second, this most recent year for 2014, investing in the vision, transforming lives and transforming the world. Our mission is to build bridges, and so we connected that through the imagery of the campaign and really encouraged people to think about new ways that we could build bridges to continue to do the great work that we're doing. And then this most recent work, part of the feedback that we heard from the congregation is they want connection, and they want to actually be able to give in many, many more ways. And so we created this really neat interactive campaign, and it had an amazing response. And so we asked people to think about how they might engage in community and make commitments there, or how they might volunteer, how they might actually commit to learning over the course of the year, because we offer a lot of different courses, and then lastly, how do you give? And so we did this 4-week campaign. We also mailed these out to people with a nice little cover letter, and we also had an online electronic version for people who, because we have people all around the world, and so how do they actually participate? And the neat thing is the response that we got was people were really excited and happy about this, because we moved from giving as being predominantly about financial to how do you also give your time on a monthly basis? How do you actually give just by participating in different events? What kind of gifts and skills? One of the things that we actually ask is whether or not people would be willing to host meetings at their home and create new kind of groups. And then we also did ask for the giving. And in terms of the giving, we set it up so that we encourage people to give through this online monthly giving, but we also allow people, if they want to do the one-time lump sum kind of giving as well. And so we prefer the monthly, but we also allow for the other. And I think that it's really about understanding who the population is and trying to make it easy for them to give in whatever way makes sense. There are a number of people in the congregation who said, you know what, because I've lost my job or whatever, I can't give financially this year, but I'm really committed to what we're doing, and so I'm going to actually step it up and give more volunteer hours. You know, that's great, because as a nonprofit, we need that as well, right? So it's really just trying to interact with the congregation and your community and understanding what really works for them. But we also know that there are some people who will never, because we're a religious organization and we have these other activities, there are some people who would never actually come to the church or would never commit to that, but are still passionate about the things that we're doing in the world. And so we've created this other group, which is called the Circle of Friends. And this is a way that we've started with the base, and then we figured out how do we actually grow beyond that. Because there are people who find, you know, what we're doing with the youth is really, really important, or what we're doing with the refugees is really, really important, and they want to help to support that. And so we created this separate group, which is called the Circle of Friends, and there's separate communications that go out to them. If they want, they can get the regular newsletter, but that's geared to people who are more participating in the regular activities of the congregation. But there are some periodic communications that specifically go and are tailored to people who are interested in these other programs. And likewise, they can either do a one-time or they can do the monthly giving. And so they come in, we have them categorized separately, but it helps to actually appeal to exactly where they happen to be and what interests them. Yep.
Keep on swapping back and forth the resources because there's only a few amounts. So
And you can pass those out too.
One example in the front that you can send back, and the ones that you got one resource. It would be great if we keep on circulating them, and then of course,
Yep.
if there's leftovers, you can take them with you.
Yep. And then as we started to grow about 3 or 4 years ago, what we actually found out was a lot of people were actually saying that they were really passionate about the refugee ministry, or they were really passionate about one of these other areas, and how could they give money to specifically support that? And so all of these other opportunities exist, but if people specifically wanted that, we created 3 separate opportunities, 3 separate funds. And so individuals, whether they're part of the congregation or not, they can specifically donate money that is actually set aside in a designated fund. That's one of them is to specifically support the refugee ministry. And this is really, really critical because in order to settle a refugee, it costs about $16,000 just to support them. But it also costs, because we have a program manager who needs to do all of the paperwork and shepherd them through the whole, putting their case together, and we actually do a support group, a peer support group. So there's lots of administration that happens with the program. And so 50% of what people give on a monthly basis goes to settle refugees, but 50% also goes to support the program. And this is really important because people who are specifically passionate about that particular ministry are able to actually designate their funds and their money directly there. And we made it really simple for people to begin. $10 a month, right? $10 a month. You know, a lot of people who are already giving have also signed up for this particular one. We have 2 other funds that we created, one that we call our Benevolence Fund, which is money that is made available to help people you know, who are experiencing job loss. You know, they're afraid their lights are going to get shut out. They're afraid they're going to get kicked out of their apartment. They need a TTC transportation pass to get to that new job for the first couple of weeks until they get their money. And so to make that money available, we created a separate fund for that. And then our third one is we call it our community partnerships, and it's money that people give that we give to other nonprofits who are doing really neat work that supports our overall mission. And so we just created these separate funds because we know that within our particular context, there are some people who are much more passionate about these particular areas and these particular focuses. And so that allows them to do it that way.
I can just piggyback. Now, I think I lost my mic. Turn it on. Oh, that's probably helpful. There you go. So, you know, what Kevin's saying might sound contradictory to some, right? Because on the other hand, you want to have a, you know, you don't want to necessarily restrict your funding that comes from monthly giving. You want to have a sustainable fund that you can use for whatever resources your organization needs. And the great thing about monthly giving is that it can be both, right? You can, to integrate new donors, you could target your current monthly campaigns to a specific initiative, to a specific group, or you can just make it a general pool for wider use. And so what the neat thing about the examples that Kevin's showing is, how do you take groups that are not necessarily used to giving, get them into a pool, and then get their donations happening on a recurring basis. I'm cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of people who are currently engaged in monthly giving, and so just making sure we have a balance of some essentials, but also burning questions that you have in the middle of your campaign. Feel free to shout them out at any time while we're going, so we can kind of continue the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, one of the other things that we've done is we've also found that, for example, we had to do a little mini capital campaign because with the winter that we had last week, when the spring thaw came, not only did all the snow go off of our roof, but our roof tiles came off the roof as well. And so we had to replace the roof, and there were a couple of other things that we had to do, which was unexpected. And so in the middle of the year, we ended up having to have this $320,000 campaign in order to address these urgent needs. And what we actually found out was, sure, there were some people who were willing to, write a check and give us $1,000 or $5,000 or even some $10,000, which was wonderful. But what we also found was, even for a campaign like that, being able to give people the opportunity to split up their donations over the course of 3 months. So instead of giving us a one-time donation of $500, maybe some people actually signed up to give us a 3-month donation going to their credit card for $200. Well, that's $600 instead of $500, right? So just understanding how people give and how people are motivated, it was a lot easier for people to think about it that way and to structure their giving according to the monthly giving, but to actually give more than what they would have if they could only just do the one-time check. And so really being able to be open and flexible about how all these different things work. But it really kind of comes down to knowing and understanding what are the passions of your population. One of the things that we're starting to do is, for each of these different areas that we have focused, like the refugee ministry that people are specifically giving, is periodically sending out emails that are targeted to update them about what's happening. A few weeks ago, a refugee actually had come in. We settled a refugee from Iran. A group from the church went and met the person at the airport, and there was actually an article in the last Saturday's Star Tribune about that. And so when that article came out, we used that as an opportunity to send out an email to everybody who is participating in the refugee program to say, hey, look, great news, we're settling another refugee, here's an update about the overall program, and here's the link to that article if you missed it in the Star Tribune. And it was a wonderful way just to maintain the relationship, let people know where things are going, and make them feel really good about the work that they're actually making possible. And so it really is about the relationship is the most critical thing for me.
Those of you who are engaged in monthly giving programs, do you do tailored stewardship for your monthly donors? You should, right? You don't necessarily have to go as far as naming your circle, although I would recommend it. It's a great way to kind of make them feel as part of a community. But certainly, engaging that group of people in a process as monthly donors is a great way to keep them engaged and keep them ongoing. They feel special, they feel like they're part of a community. And that way, when you get examples like Kevin's describing, it's part of your toolkit of ongoing communications that you give with a specific group of people.
Yep.
So I would really start to focus on tailored messaging that shows the impact of that monthly gift on an ongoing basis.
Yep. It's all about the story, and I think that's the key thing, is also telling the stories and letting people tell the stories. For the high school, when the last group graduated from the high school, they did this really incredible video that the Toronto School Board actually posted on their website. Well, once Toronto School Board posted that video on the website, we grabbed the link, and again, we sent out an email to everybody who was giving to say, hey, look, this is really, really cool. You should really check this out. We graduated the largest class that has ever graduated in the program, and they did this really amazing video, and they talk about how that program has changed their lives. And so, that was the kids doing it themselves, completely unprompted. But being able to provide that information, again, it helps to cement the relationship. And in doing that, we actually had one of our larger donors actually come and meet with us and made a special targeted donation to fund the food program for like the next couple of years. So it was just absolutely amazing. But it's because they felt really good. Nobody did a separate ask for it. It was because they felt motivated and impassioned by what they're actually seeing happen. And so it really is, if you can maintain the communication and the relationship and start to tailor those messages, I think it's absolutely critical. And so message matters, as well as the method. Make it easy for the people who are giving. One of the big challenges that we have is sometimes we want to make it administratively easy, and we use internal language. And the reality is, you need to flip the whole paradigm around, and you need to think about what makes it easier for people to give in ways that they are passionate, and what makes it easier for them to understand what we're actually doing with their gift. All the internal language about how we categorize different people, it doesn't matter externally, and we just have to kind of lose that. Our next step, where we're actually going now as we approach 2015, is every year we've done a major donor thank you event, which is something simple. You know, it's at somebody's house, cocktails and whatever, and it's just a way of saying thank you. And so what we're actually going to start doing is we're going to be doing a special event which is for all of our donors. So anybody who participates in any of the monthly programs, we're going to be doing a special thank you. And we've got talented musicians, and so we have that available, right? So we have talent in-house, and so we're just going to have a nice, fun little night where people do like this separate little show, and it will be simple and easy, low cost, but it makes people feel special. Even if they don't come, just getting invited to that kind of an event says, you're important and your gift matters. So we're actually moving in that direction.
So the key, and that's a lot, so we'll go through it. The key thing, I think, what Kevin's showing you is that if you just have a button on your website that says sign up as a monthly donor and you're not doing anything else, don't expect the program to grow, right? And so if you're here thinking, okay, I don't have a monthly giving program, how do I start? Or if you're thinking, I have a monthly giving program, but it's stagnant, what am I thinking? What should I be doing? What should we be considering? Just some of the basics for those of you who haven't. Obviously, have a good established back-end system. And as Kevin, while Kevin said, you don't get too bogged down in the administration, get your house in order, right? Just as I mentioned with the Good Life example, no one wants a sloppy administrative system. No one wants monthly giving to be a hassle. No one wants an excuse not to do it, right? So make sure you have a very, very tight administrative system that your staff know about, or that you know about, or that whatever your donor administrator knows about. The key finding I found about monthly giving is that every single person in the organization, so I work with lawyers every day, all day long, they all know about our monthly giving program. Yep. From the program staff to the admin people, it should not just be this thing that happens in a silo. It's an integrated part of your program and your toolkit that everyone should know about. And if you don't treat it as such, it's going to be impossible for it to grow. I sent a link of some different examples of a backend if you're curious about one. I'll show you, both Kevin and I use Canada Helps, which is an easy one. I find it a little expensive. It's 3.9% per transaction if you do it for your regular donations. I have a meeting on Thursday after this conference with Gift Tool, who I've used in the past, who are offering a little bit better. There are pros and cons to all of them. Shop around, find out which one works best for your administrative system and works best for the culture of your organization. I've gone from having sophisticated donor tools like Razor's Edge to FileMaker Pro, which I currently have. So whatever you have in your organization, make sure that it's a seamless system so that there's no hiccups that can prevent someone from giving.
I think the other piece, though, about that is once you've started doing monthly giving, you have the basic infrastructure. It's actually easy to start adding on additional programs. And I think that's why we've been able to actually grow the way that we've been able to grow, is because we had the basics in place. And so if you're not doing monthly giving, at least get the basics in place and just focus on that core. But if you do have some form of monthly giving, it's easy to then extend the infrastructure that you already have to be able to start doing other kinds of tailored programs.
Those of you who do monthly giving, what do you use in your back end? What powers your giving? Examples? Mostly Canada Helps. Yeah, it's easy, right? You just sign up and it does the work for you. Gift Tool, again, is another one. Any other ones that, Tez, yep, that's a good one as well.
Yeah.
Razor's Edge, if you have the money, and if you have the data, Razor's Edge is great for it. Yeah. Oh, great. So I don't know if you ever heard that. Donor Perfect is another example. Yeah, in the back. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Shop around for the lowest rate. I mean, especially if you're trying to go low. You know, I'm not going to say a cap of what's a valuable monthly gift. I think it's up for you and your organization. But if you're going as low as $5 a month as an option, and you're paying $3 on the gift, it's a lot of administrative burden. So shop around. There's a big trade show upstairs. Make them work for your business. Really, give it as much thought as you give your regular donor gift, because again, they can be in it for life. Right? So by making sure you have a mechanism for which they can sign up, upgrade, right? So not just sign up, but upgrade as well. How many of you guys who have monthly donors think of their total year-end gift? So when you're doing your totals, stop it, right? I mean, obviously you need to do it for your budgetary purposes, but it's not the way to think about them. They're ongoing donors who are going to give over a cycle and a lifetime, and pigeonholing them in their monthly giving category, I think psychologically prevents from asking for upgrades, prevents from encouraging the upgrades, prevents all of the regular fundraising tools that you usually do for your single gift donors, you should do for your monthly gift donors. Yeah. But by pigeonholing them in their total gift, you lose the potential of bringing them up the donor ladder.
Yep. Yeah, one of the other things I just want to point out, as you're thinking about some of these online options, and we do use Canada Helps, I think it's important to think definitely about the transaction price, but you also need to be aware of what kind of information and reporting are they doing, what kind of information are they giving back to you about your donors. Some send summary information and not detailed information, and that may make it difficult for you if you're not getting the level of information you need to really be able to maintain the relationship at the level that you want. So definitely transaction cost is a piece of the puzzle, but you also need to really drill down and understand what kind of information you're getting and whether you can do it. The other piece is you need to figure out whether they or you are keeping an eye on when people's credit cards are expiring, especially for monthly donors. And that we actually had a problem, not just about credit card expiry, but earlier in the year, the Aeroplan cards actually transitioned from TD Bank to CIBC. And so we had a huge number of credit card numbers that all of a sudden had to be changed. And it took us a couple of months to chase everybody down and actually get all that information updated. And so you need to be really aware of who's maintaining that information and what information are you actually getting, because if you're not getting that level of information and they're not actually going to follow it up, then things can actually fall through the cracks.
Having a backup plan is always essential. At Inside Out, and then we were early in monthly giving back then, but I was not only running the program, I was administrating the program. And even before, like, as monthly donors were getting more upfront, I was getting void check. We had a little machine that we had to swipe. You guys remember the old machines? I had to type in the credit card number. Yeah. And so when you have, if that's the level that you're at, then it's really important that you're staying up to date with the data. Right, regularly engaging with it. If it's not you and there's another donor administrative officer, having them understand the importance of keeping the data in check is going to be crucial in order to sustain the program. Because, you know, nothing worse if you've been there than saying, and I've been there, saying to a donor, "Oh, we missed 6 months of your payment because your car got stolen and we missed it once and we didn't understand what was going on. So, you know, why not pay $120 over 6 months now, right?" Well, but that's why I'm giving monthly, because I don't want to make that kind of commitment in one chunk. And so you lose that revenue just by not keeping track of the data. So just like, yes, please. Yeah,
yes, please.
Please, ask. Did everyone hear the question? So the question was to Kevin was what was the conversion rate from monthly donors in addition to an annual campaign or year-end campaign or whatever it was?
Yeah. So each year we're trying to actually increase the amount a little. So we have right now actually it's a third of our overall budget, and actually a little over half of our actual membership participate in the annual monthly donor. And so each year we try to convert, if you will, people who are giving in ways other than monthly donating. We try to encourage them whenever we do our annual campaign to actually consider doing the monthly donation. And so each year we're increasing that population who actually do that by about 3 to 5% of our overall population. One of the ways that we actually do that is so this last year we did some posters and some messaging about what are the benefits to the individuals of doing that kind of monthly giving. It's air miles and it makes it easy and they don't have to worry about it. And then also what are the benefits to the mission and the ministry? It's less costly, right? The administration, so more money actually goes to support the stuff that they actually want it to support. And so part of it is also a communication campaign to encourage people. And then one of the things that we tried for the first time this year, I don't know if it worked or not, but we actually did a special raffle, if you will, for people who signed up for the monthly giving. At the end of the campaign, we had a drawing. There are a number of individuals who donated some gifts. And so we actually put everybody who signed up for that into this drawing, and then we gave away these 3 gifts. You know, it was a piece of artwork. It was nothing significant, but it sort of was a nice little giveaway. And so it's really about communication over time, but you have to think about growing it year after year after year. You're not going to go from 5% to 25% of that population in a single year. Yep. Yep.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I think it referred to what I mentioned earlier. The more direct communication, the more that you have with your monthly donors, either naming the group, but engaging them as part of a club, as part of a circle of people who give, it makes it easier to ask them to contribute again, right? If you're just thinking about it transactionally, yeah, what's the incentive? Like, why are you asking me for more money, right? It's up to you to be very specific, right? Thank you and thank them, right? Thank them for their ongoing contribution, and here's how you could help now. And you know, at Inside Out, it was all we had was monthly giving, right? So doing the year-end appeal on top of it, they already knew that they were the core group being hit. It's the same approach to, I mean, how many of you guys do 4 or 5 appeals a year, right, to the same donor, hoping that they might give another check here and down, right? The same giving mentality exists for monthly donor, even though they've signed on. Sometimes, you know, they might not even remember that they're giving, right? Right. So if you're engaged in that kind of clear customer service, the monthly, you know, the money's coming out of your account every month, you're forgetting that it's there because you know you don't want to think about your depleting bank account. Being thanked for that gift with a very specific appeal that, as Kevin said, speaks to their passions is a way to increase that that conversion rate.
Yeah, the other piece of it is, and you'll notice on our pledge, it's an opportunity to actually encourage people to step up and increase, right? But what I will say is, so we do communicate to everybody who's already giving as well as people who are not. But when we send out letters, they're 2 different letters because we want to acknowledge those who are already giving, and so the messaging is slightly different. And so we do communicate to everybody, whether they're giving or not, but it's not just one broadcast message. The message is actually slightly tailored to acknowledge that difference.
Well, I've never been very technologically savvy, but back when it was just me doing it, I spent hours kind of acknowledging the gift that they've made on each donor form, saying, thank you for your gift of $30 a month. Would you consider increasing to $45 a month? And by the way, can you help towards this annual appeal? Setting out those general form cards at the end of the gift is going to have a certain degree of success, but if you really want to increase that conversion rate, you really got to tailor the message to every single donor.
The relationship.
Yeah,
It's
please.
about the relationship.
What you talked about seems to be related mostly to mail appeals and messaging that correspond. Is anyone, or are you doing phone appeals to bring on monthly donors?
Absolutely. Thinking about branding and rollout is really crucial. And I would do the same things you do for your annual appeal. So currently we're in the middle of our year-end appeal. We've got a combination of our form appeal letter. We've done electronic appeal. We're coinciding our campaign with Giving Tuesday as a launch of our campaign. We've got, I've got a 1-minute video shoot from the person who's wrote the letter to the campaign. And then our senior volunteers are splitting up calls to encourage people to donate. So I would do all of them because and just like your annual appeal, just sending out the letter is not going to necessarily reinforce the gift. It's having all of those pieces together that's going to increase that monthly giving. So I would treat it with the same amount of gusto that you would treat your year-end appeal. I just wanted to talk a little bit about where to encourage monthly gifts. And I'm saying something that's a little bit, as far as retention rates, I think the retention rate is slightly higher with monthly debit. If you think about just as far as consistent, if people send you a void check, or now, I mean, my bank doesn't even give checks anymore, they give their pre-authorized payment forms. But having ongoing payments from checking account is certainly the highest way to keep donors engaged, because less hiccups from expiry dates of credit card. But credit card in an increasingly online world is the fastest way in.
Right.
All right, so just something to consider when you're thinking about what's the best approach for your monthly giving and what's the best way to kind of get them on board. Having options for them to switch over if that's what's required is something to consider as well. And considering giving levels, who starts as low as $5 a month? Just curious, those who are giving monthly giving. How have you found that? Do people, yeah, why do you have it as an option? Fair enough. I know we want to kind of think lower base to make sure everyone has a way in, but also I don't want to think, no one wants to think that most of their gift is going to admin costs. Just thinking about the donor in that respect of what's best for your organization. If you could do it for zero admin costs, then that $5 a month might have some value. But if you're spending, $3 or maybe $2 per transaction, I wouldn't feel good if knowing half my donation is going to just process it. So something to consider when you're thinking about the base level. Who goes higher than that? Who goes as high as $500 a month? Yeah? How is your success rate? You have one? Hey, that's good for you. There's one, all right? That's $6,000 a year.
We had a $5 one, but we didn't actually have that on the giving.
Right.
When we put other, she put the $5.
This will happen.
Right. I think there's no clear fixed way to do it. Having, I'd say, think about what you want to accomplish or what your goals are when you establish the rates, and I think setting the bar appropriately. I don't like to live in it to more than 4 or 5. Having 10 options a month is a little bit overwhelming. I say stick to a few and the other is a great way to kind of get them to fill it in.
Yep, absolutely.
So strategically, some necessary steps. Just like your annual campaign or other campaigns, set a target. And I like to use different measurable approaches. So setting a target of the number of donors you want to have and how you want them to increase. Setting a target for the average gift is also important. And to your comment in the back, really thinking about conversion, right, should be always on your mind. Right? How do I increase the number of donors? How do I get people who sign up annually to sign up as a monthly donor. What are the various strategies I'm going to use to convert donors and increase the monthly giving?
There's a note of caution on those targets, right? Again, this is the internal versus the external, right? One of the mistakes that I think that a lot of organizations do is we set the average gift and then we actually communicate that. And what ends up happening is what? Well, people who can't give that level feel guilty, and people who can give more give the average gift, right? And so it's good to have those targets. I do actually agree that it's helpful to do that, but you really need to be careful about how you're actually communicating it. What you'll see actually on our stewardship form, we communicate what's the overall goal of the campaign. That's what we're actually communicating, as opposed to breaking it down to these little internal targets.
Yeah, I volunteer for organizations that want to focus on, let's everyone give $25 a month today, which has limited value, right? Whether it's for a 25-year anniversary or a specific campaign. I think focusing on impact versus specific amount is going to be your goal. People who donate monthly, do you guys have a prospect list for your monthly donors? Yes? No? You should, right? It's just the same way you prospect for individual gifts, annual gifts, you should prospect for your monthly donors. There's general thoughts about this, but I think anyone that gives under $100 is a great prospect for a monthly gift. So if someone came to an event and gave $75 for your at a specific event, or decide to throw a check in the mail for $75, if they gave more than once within a year, right? Those are the things that you should be looking at who should be asked to join a monthly gift. And it's important that you ask. Thank them for that gift, and then say, would you consider being a monthly donor? It's a combination of having those prospects understand where the prospects came from your list, and then inviting them to be part of your circle or your group. Yes?
From my perspective, it depends. The question is whether we find first-time donors as being prospects for the monthly. So it depends upon how engaged they are within the organization. And so somebody who just came to a single event and gave, they may be part of that initial mailing, but they're probably not that likely. But if you see that they gave first time, but you also see that they're somehow otherwise connected to the mission of the organization, maybe they're coming to other events or something, then they're demonstrating that their interest is growing. I would say that it'd be worthwhile to find out who knows that person and find out what they know about that person.
Yeah, I mean, two or more is usually my trigger, but one if they pay by credit card, and if it's again under $100, it's certainly, as Kevin said, worthwhile looking at that individual.
How often would you do a targeted acquisition for monthly donors, whether by mail or online, or is it just?
I'd say it depends on how many appeals that you do during a year. So if you do 12 appeals, if you do a month, appeal a month, but if you do 12 appeals, which I hope you don't do. But if you, actually, depending on your organization, you could do as many as you want for monthly giving. Really, there's various rules of thumb depending on the size of your organization. We do 3 specific targeted campaigns per year, but that's just the nature of what I think determined the highest conversion based on how many donors that we have right now. I think it really depends on the culture of your organization, what you think fits outside of your ongoing communications and what other programs you have. But I think, reading more into your question, certainly you could do it more than once a year, and certainly you can make sure you target your monthly program as aggressively as you would target any other program, would be my general rule of thumb.
For those just starting out and dipping their toes into monthly giving, would you suggest approaching it more cost effectively rather than doing a multi-channel mailing and in addition like website updates, but to really focus it on a small prospect list, phone calls with a group of volunteers, doing something a little
Yeah. What I would say is start with who and what you know best, and whatever you choose to do, make sure that whatever you do, you can do it well. And so it may be if you're not doing anything and you just want to start off, maybe you do start off with your core committed membership list and your board, and see if you can get a group converted over and keep it relatively simple. But you also need to make sure that you're balancing it, because if it looks amateurish, right, then people are actually going to question the integrity of the organization and whether this is an organization that I want to invest in. So if you're going to do it well. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but you want to make sure that the messaging is clear and that you can actually manage both the contact as well as the capturing accurately of the information, and then making sure that you're giving thank yous and acknowledgement which are timely and accurate. That's what you need to do as a base.
Yeah, I volunteer for an organization that doesn't have a fundraiser, and it's just a bunch of us volunteering to grow the program. And I think the best advice is to start with the lowest hanging fruit, as far as people who again have made. If you've got a really small donor pool and you're just trying to grow from there, focus on the people who made small gifts, being really clear. And I think it's a great story to start a program and to communicate that you're starting a program as well. If you could talk about the impact of your organization and do it, do it on the cheap. You don't need a lot of tools. As long as they're clear tools that focus on impact of the gift, and I think you don't need a. I mean, I'm impressed that you got it for free. I want to know more about that. But if you have a 3-minute video that someone could, if you don't have that in your piece, but you have some really great stories, that if you've been at other sessions here at AFP, you've been hearing about the power of stories. Connecting those pieces to your campaign is a great way to start.
Yep. The answer to the question of how we got that video for free is very simple. It is understanding who's passionate and what talents people have. And so we had somebody who could make the video, and we knew that they could do that. We had this individual who sang in the choir who had this incredible voice. And then we actually ended up writing the script. And that was actually put together over a matter of like 3 or 4 days. But it was because they were passionate about it. So people can give in ways other than money. And to do that video professionally was probably $2,000-$3,000 minimum. But to be able to actually have individuals who are passionate about the organization, it was a wonderful way to celebrate the gifts that they were willing to give in a way that actually connected them. And so it was a way to maximize their gift. So know who is passionate is the key.
That's right. This is an example of just how you start to message your appeal. I really like this Oxfam example, or sorry, UNICEF example. That's Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss. Having a clear donate button, but I like this message here. Be the difference between life and death. Join Alyssa in saving children's lives with just 50 cents a day. Right? This one's an actual matching giving campaign, but it's a clear kind of direct appeal on your website that's connected with a powerful message that talks about impact. It's just one real powerful example of how you use your website to kind of communicate your monthly plans. Having a clear online form, again, the great news is that it's becoming increasingly easy to have clear, professional-looking donor portals. So this one from Greenpeace's, has again, 5 options with an other, starting from $12 to $50 a month. It's easy. Everything is on one page, right? You're not clicking through 20 pages to get to the info. You're here. And then at the side, it still shows that we rely on individual donations from people just like you with a message about the organization's work. One of the things, so we just did side rant here. We just did a huge, massive revisit of our website. It was a government grant. We spent a lot of money on it. And then our communications director, she's great. I'm very fond of her, but going through the process, she's like, so what do you want to do with the donate page? And thought that was kind of the limit to my involvement in the website. I don't know if any of you guys have been there, but it took, several hours of conversation over a period of time, we had a conversation on why, for my goals, the messaging of donation and impact and different types of giving modules had to be integrated throughout the website. And it's a really important conversation for you to have with your colleagues, if it's just you and someone else is doing the website, being really clear on the linkages between the donate page, and you should still, on the donate page, have the impact message of your gift. So really think those things through. And as I like to say to my colleagues, like, well, once you make the decision to donate, you've already decided when you click on the donate page. So my goal is making sure that the messaging and options are tailored out throughout the website. So just, it goes back to our underlying point that this has to be a process that everyone has buy-in on. It can't be something that you just want to plop up and do on its own. For it to really work, it should be integrated fully into your program. But then, here's another example of a great infographic that talks about impact. Like, infographics are great. I'm a huge fan of them. They're increasingly popular. They're increasingly easy to do on your own. I did one, and that's saying a lot because I'm really not good at these things. But again, it's an example of a specific circle, right? It's not even necessarily, well, they called it an AUK dream catcher, right? By becoming a monthly donor, they talk about what the regular monthly gifts does. So regular monthly gifts provide AUK with a reliable source of funding to give kids with and affected by childhood cancer what they deserve, a chance to be a kid. For as little as $10 a month, making a difference in the life of a child with cancer is simple and affordable. At Camp AUK, kids are defined by who they are, not what they have, right? They have a message there, and then the infographic shows basically what $10 does. So by $20 a month, give 1 day in camp, times that by 5, right? $100 a month gives you 5 days in camp. It's just various options in a clever way that shows that one gift and shows you how to use that donor options to talk about impact. So we talked about how low or little you give per month. What's clever about this approach is that they talked about all those options in terms of impact. Yep. And that's what I liked about this.
Yeah, the other neat thing, which I think is really important, is if you notice it says, by joining the Dreamcatchers monthly giving club. And I think that's important, right? A lot of times we treat individuals as they're separate. People want to belong to something that's bigger than they are. And so in that, so we have our circle of friends, we do these different events. I love the fact that they have a giving club, right? We can have bigger impact together, and that's one of the things that people are hungering for right now, is to belong to something that's bigger than they are. So I love it.
Yeah. Here's another example, right? By donating a latte a month, you can support nursing education for Alberta's RN and MPs. 1 latte equals $4.82. Now, I put this example up because I liked it in theory, but what do you think will happen when you talk about $4.82 a month, right? You're in $5 donation land. Yep. So it's great as an approach, but I think caution here and I've heard this example a lot, when you're talking about small gift, right? It's kind of that guilt approach, right? Well, if you're gonna pay $10 for that cocktail, why don't you sign up for that monthly giving, right? And it's an interesting approach in theory, but you really want to think through as far as impact from the gift. So I put this up as a note of caution. Great in theory, and I'm sure Alberta's nursing RN program is great, but making sure that you talk about the impact of that gift and not limiting people through that donation model is also important. Cool. For those of you who are not do not know Canada Helps, Canada Helps may seem like it's very dry and not user-friendly, but you can make it what you want it to be. And I was really impressed, and again, there's a link to MC Toronto's site, about how they made their Canada Helps page come alive. Don't look at mine, because mine is not nearly as impressive. But this is a great way, right, to really use that whatever you have as your mechanism to its fullest advantage, right? Take the time, really find out how to best use the tool, images, stories, photos. If you clicked on the current campaign button for Metropolitan Community Church, and Kevin, you could add more, but they actually list their campaigns that Kevin was talking about. So it's clear that if you are interested in any one of those initiatives, you could click on those links, but it's also not pigeonholing you to that. You could just also donate to the annual fund. And then what Canada Helps does as well is that you could still donate individually, donate monthly, donate securities. So it's making sure that whatever portal you use, right, whether you have a sophisticated one of some of the examples or a very basic program, that you think it through, that it's clear, that it provides good customer service, and that really speaks to the values of the organization.
Yeah, and so, you know, with Canada Helps, you know, to Kimahli's point, if you actually go there on our page, you'll actually see that there are probably about 5 items that people can select. So there's just general fund, there's the refugee, there's the stuff to support the high school, and then from time to time we'll do specific campaigns. And so we had an urgent need. There was a little note there about Dwayne's house. There was some stuff going on in Jamaica where there was an urgent need for some shelter, and so we partnered with another group to be the Canadian point where people could actually donate, and we used our infrastructure to support that organization. And so we had that for a period of time where we just added a drop-down button on our Canada Helps page, and anything that came in was designated specifically to that particular group, so that when those funds came in, then we were able to actually designate that off. So it has flexibility. It takes a little bit to set up, but there's actually some really neat things that you can actually do to support multiple ways for people to be able to give.
Questions? Yes?
Yeah, so I don't know what specific, like what Razor's Edge or what specifically you will be getting, but some of the questions that you need to be asking, at least for the kinds of information, is what's the level of detail that you're getting about the people who are actually donating? Are you getting their contact information, for example? You should obviously be getting the amount because you need to be able to do some sort of receipts. Who is actually doing the tax receipting, right? People give to nonprofits. Are they going to do that for you, or are you actually doing it yourself? Different facilities will provide that and some won't. And so, and especially if they start doing the tax reporting for you, that's a headache off of you. But oftentimes if they're doing that, then you're not actually getting the detail, you're getting summary information. And so it's really that level of detail on a particular donor. What are they maintaining and what are you actually receiving?
Most generally give you, I mean, you could export the information, so you usually have a tab where you could export all that data information. Any good one, like Canada Helps, for example, will tell you, I mean, it's a little clunky how they present it, but they'll give you every single gift that they get each month and every dollar amount, so you'll have to kind of aggregate that information. Like you have work to do within the data, but you get a clear indication of every gift that comes in, when it came in. They'll mark it as a recurring donation. It's up to you then to, and most of the online tools give an instant receipt. I can't imagine ones that don't these days. Most of them give a churro receipt. But in doing that, if you're just relying on them to give you a receipt and not even acknowledging at the year end still that gift, you can run into difficulty there. But depending on the service provider who you use, most will have a meeting, right? Most will walk you through the program and really shop around. Look at which options are best for the size of your organization, who's administering it, how much you need to know. So if you know that it's just you and that you've got limited kind of capacity for these things, really look for a shop that might help you through, that you could afford those pieces. And do your research, book a meeting. They'll generally walk you through because they want your business as well. Cool. Get back.
We work with a software package that has their own domain that you can put on multiple pages. So that you have a Christmas lunch, you have it on the Christmas lunch page, you put your jobs wherever. But it actually can build the pledge transaction records in their software and indicate what's been paid today. And you can manage all of your pledging, your monthly giving, and your e-receipts, so that you have full access and full control over how you're handling that. And also, with the donor mail area, set up all your own debts, with your own wording, etc., and your own funds. So it's very flexible and it's really designed with the charity in mind.
Great. Do you know the name of the service?
At ease? At ease.
At ease. I'll tweet that. But that's great. That's a really great example of organization. There's lots of them. There's increasingly amounts of them as well. Any questions? Yeah.
When you talked before about communicating with your monthly donors and some of those one-off examples of forwarding the news, like the news article, do you set up a plan at the beginning of the year for when you're going to contact your monthly donors, what touch points you're going to have with them, and what would that look like?
Well, I'll say that that's one of our growing edges, but we are getting actually much better about that, and that is actually one of the things that we're doing. We're going through our planning and budgeting process right now, and as part of that, we've asked all of the different groups that are doing fundraising and campaigns what's their actual timing, and then we're actually meeting with our communications people to figure out what does that rhythm actually look like. So that's something that we recognize we need to do a better job about. We do a regular monthly, but as far as the targeted ones, they tend to be more episodic, right? There's something that happened, and so we want to have regular, like quarterly reports that go out, and then do these episodics just as an occasional. And so that's something that we're trying to get more sophisticated about.
Yeah, I mean, the same goes with annual funds, right? You're focus all your time on getting the donation, but you don't think about your stewardship strategy. And the great thing, if you're really thinking about starting a monthly giving program, is to do them on the same track. Think about your stewardship strategy as you're building the program, how you want to communicate them, and brainstorm. It should be a fun, creative process, right? What's this circle going to look like? How you want to communicate them? What's this club going to be? And make sure that you're thinking all the way through so that you can increase their gift essentially. But make sure you give it as much thought as the mechanism for building the program.
Do you find that your monthly donors read your e-news, is the question.
I do, yeah, I do. I mean, I think tailoring them through a monthly donor circle. We call ours our communique, right? We're a bilingual organization. So having a piece that feels like theirs is going to certainly help that out. But yeah, and it shouldn't be the only source, right? You should be involving your volunteers in that process. You should be doing individual touches when you can. So use multiple tools in your arsenal to steward them, just like you would any other donor. There was a question back there.
After a person's credit card lapses because they had it stolen or expired, what is the sweet spot for time that you can call them before too much time has lapsed and you realize that they're not going to reset up and not reach out?
Do it immediately. A month. Like, I really do not risk it unless, I mean, obviously things happen, and if you don't know for whatever reason afterwards, you could try to beg for forgiveness, but you got to be diligent with it. Is really the biggest advice I can give to you, because the moment you're asking people to kind of make a catch-up purchase, right? It's a bigger lump portion on their bill. I don't even necessarily ask. I mean, I wouldn't recommend asking them to catch up. I would just, be grateful that they'll re-sign up, and be humble about it. I think that's the only thing only choice you have really at that point.
Yeah, I'd say one cycle is definitely doable, 2 is possible, but anything beyond 2 billing cycles, it's very unlikely.
It just brings your credibility into question, right? And how are you stewarding my resources? And it talks about need. Oh, I guess you really don't need my money if you've let $60 go of 3 monthly payments, right? If we're talking about impact, it's like, oh, that's X amount of people that could have been benefited from my donation.
Having a little bit of challenge finding people's phone numbers, rather not putting them down on the form, they don't want to call. So then I'm trying to track down, they're private, do they not want me to have their phone number? And that's why they don't give it to me anyway. But then at a time where the gift was lapsed, we do need to be in touch. So there's always writing to them. But that takes a lot longer, and I don't know.
Yeah,
It seems to be a growing thing now.
It's one of those things that it happens, and what I do with my colleagues, because I'm not the administrator, is that I ask them what their mechanism is. So what do you do? And we talk about what's the best thing to do. A is like when do you do your preventative measures, right? So how often do you look at the expiry dates? Do you have a Outlook trigger for expiry dates? Do you have all the expiry dates listed in your system, right? Having all those tools in order ahead of time, because they do give you the data, back to your question, allows you to at least track and better manage the situation. Obviously things are gonna happen, but I think the best thing we could recommend is to get all those preventative measures in line first, by talking to your colleagues or yourself if you're doing it. But then, you know the relationship with that donor, and you'll have to use some discretion about how you can actually communicate with that person about the scenario. Maybe they'll be understanding if you hopefully have established a relationship. But if you haven't established a relationship, you're not treating them part of a circle, they've lost 3 months of membership, well, what's the incentive of that person to keep on giving?
Simply the phone number. I'm having trouble getting all of these phone numbers.
Yeah.
They're missing. So we have the ability to track all that information we have at our disposal.
Yeah.
It's simply keeping in contact
Yeah.
with donors. Like moving is happens frequently. Changing phone numbers
Yep.
happens frequently. People want to go private, right? They're going to cell numbers and they're not filling them out. So for my organization, it just seems to be a bit of a roadblock. All of them, right? I can mail them, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is difficult. We have a number of people, we only have their email. One of the things that we try to do is make sure, we don't sell lists, so I don't know if that's your situation or not, but we do make it, whenever we ask for people's contact information, we make it very explicit that we do not share or sell the lists.
Yeah, I think, I'll get to you in a second. I think I tend to find that people communicate to you and with their donations in the way they want to be communicated. So if they're generally communicating via email, that's probably the best approach.
Yep.
I would try to install a mechanism where you could try to get additional data from them if that's something that's really important to your organization, whether it be a survey, whether it be through, and turn it into a touch point with them if you're trying to collect more data. I think we have time for one more
and
question.
Then, one quick. We will. Okay, so
Please.
one quick question, and then we need you to fill out your evaluation form as well.
Nope. Maybe we'll do two. I think there was two here.
How often would you suggest providing upgrade opportunities, and how do you do that? Is it by phone? Is it by in a solicitation?
Yeah. So how often do we suggest providing upgrade opportunities? So at least on an annual basis. And I think that it depends. This also goes back to understanding who your donors are and where they are and what kind of upgrade you're talking about. If you've got a mass list, right, of hundreds of people, then probably in your annual solicitation you want to encourage that. But then there's probably a subset of your donors. Maybe it's 10%. Your top 10% donors. There should be somebody managing that relationship, and whether it's over the phone or in person, those individuals you want to be having specific conversations with.
Okay, I know you have a quick question. Yep.
I was just going to offer him some advice because I just did an audit
Brilliant.
on our monthly giving program to see how people were lapsing and why they were lapsing, and a lot of it had to do with banking information. And the question was, well, what are we doing in order to recapture these people? And part of our donor relations staff is we try and do the phone call. If we can't reach them, we have a set letter, a basic letter set up for that goes out to them. So if we can't reach them by phone, they're not returning a voicemail message that's left, we send out the letter in order to try and reconnect with them. And we found that the renewal rate is fairly high. I'm still waiting for the exact numbers. I'm sorry I can't share them with you. But we are finding that the renewal rates are positive in doing it that way, and it's cost effective.
Great.
Great. Okay,
So,
we're done.
Thank you very much, everyone. Our contact information is there. Feel free to fill out an evaluation if you have any further questions. A lot of the resources we talked about are available via Twitter. And again, if you've already started your program, just get everyone's weigh in on it and really think through your strategy. Thank you much, everyone. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.